right, gentlemen, I'm showing it's 9 o'clock.
Yes, sir.
Ready?
Yes, Chairman.
All right. Good morning, everyone. This meeting is called to order. Mr. Trillman, has anyone signed up for public comment?
Good morning, Commissioners. Les Trillman, General Counsel. We do not have anyone registered to provide public comment this morning.
Thank you, Mr. Trillman. Good morning, Ms. Miller.
Good morning, sir.
All right. See, we're on agenda item 3 now, but we have no cases to reconsider under agenda.
That is correct, sir. No cases.
Let's move into tax liability cases under agenda item 4. I believe we have 4 tax cases on docket 31.
Yes, sir. The first case is TD-20-062-0320. Commissioner Demerson?
I agree with staff recommendation.
Commissioner Alvarez?
I agree with staff's recommendation.
And Mr. Chairman?
Agree with staff recommendation.
The second case is TD-20-078-0620. Commissioner Demerson?
I agree with staff recommendation.
Commissioner Alvarez?
I agree with staff's recommendation as well.
And Mr. Chairman?
Agree with staff recommendation.
The third case is TD-20-080-0620. Commissioner Demerson?
I agree with staff recommendation.
And Commissioner Alvarez?
Agree with staff's recommendation.
And Mr. Chairman?
Agree with staff recommendation.
And the final case is TD-20-081-0620. Commissioner Demerson?
Agree with staff recommendation.
Commissioner Alvarez?
I agree with staff's recommendation.
And Mr. Chairman?
Agree with staff recommendation.
Thank you.
Okay, we have no fair housing cases under agenda item 5.
Correct, sir. No cases.
Let's move to agenda item 6. We have no wage claim cases pulled for additional discussion on docket 31.
That's correct. None pulled for additional discussion. You should have received the short form dissent list already.
I move we accept staff recommendations on the remaining wage claim cases on docket 31.
I second the motion except for those cases on which I'm dissenting as reflected on the wage claim short form dissent list for docket 31.
I concur with the chairman's motion except for the cases on which I'm dissenting as reflected in the wage claim short form dissent list for docket 31.
The motion passes with the exceptions noted.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Move to agenda item 7 in consideration of unemployment insurance cases on docket 31. Please proceed when you are ready.
The first case is 2461674, Commissioner Demerson.
The AT decision should be modified. The employer received complaints that the claimant was engaging in disturbing and inappropriate conduct with customers. According to the complaints, the claimant was sexually harassing customers, following them around the store and soliciting tips. The claimant was suspended and later discharged after investigation. Although it denies any wrongdoing, the allegations were of such a serious nature that the employer had no choice but to terminate the claimant's employment. The employer should not be penalized and charged for its decision to discharge the claimant under the circumstances. Accordingly, we should modify the AT decision, no misconduct, no chargeback, separation with urgent, compelling, and necessary. In the alternative, I would agree to rehear this case to admit the email the employer offers in its appeal to the commission and for testimony from the employer witnesses who have firsthand knowledge of the complaint and investigation.
The decision should be affirmed. The employer has not provided any firsthand evidence to establish allegations against the claimant, and the claimant has denied the allegations under oath. In accordance with Commission President, the employer has failed to carry its burden to establish the claimant committed misconduct connected with the work. Affirm the AT, no misconduct, chargeback.
Affirm the AT, no misconduct, chargeback.
Short form dissent.
Thank you, Commissioner Demerson. I have a short form dissent.
Thank you.
Next case is 2463537, Commissioner Demerson.
The AT decision should be modified. I dispute the good cause ruling, and I agree that the claimant received disqualifying wages in lieu of notice. However, I disagree with the ruling on the job separation. The claimant was instructed to bring a binder of staff food handler certification cards to a meeting. While en route to the meeting, the claimant's vehicle broke down and he missed work for several days. During that time, the claimant left the binder in his truck and made no effort to keep the documents safe or return them to the employer. As the general manager, it was the claimant's responsibility to secure the documentation make a plan for its delivery, and keep the employer apprised of this plan. The claimant did none of those things, despite knowing that his job was in jeopardy for poor performance. The claimant should have known that such casual treatment of important documentation would lead to his discharge. Mismanaged his position of employment, and we should modify the AT decision. The claimant had good cause for his non-appearance, misconduct, no chargeback, adequate employer response. The claimant received disqualifying wages in lieu of notice from October 20th, 2019 through October 26th, 2019.
The decision should be affirmed. The claimant did not receive the hearing notice for the first hearing and had good cause for his non-appearance. Regarding the job separation, the claimant was discharged for removing and failing to return documents. The claimant only removed the files at the employer's instructions. The employer attempted to ask for the files via text message, but the claimant did not receive the messages. The claimant returned to files immediately upon being asked, but was fired the next day. The employer has failed to provide sufficient evidence to establish misconduct connected with the work. Affirm the AT good cause for the claimant's non-appearance, no misconduct, chargeback, claimant ineligible for wages in lieu of notice from October 20th, 2019 to October 26th, 2019.
Affirm the AT, claimant established good cause for AT1, no misconduct, chargeback wages in lieu of notice disqualification October 20, 2019 through October 26, 2019.
Short form dissent.
Thank you, sir. I have a short form dissent for you.
Thank you.
Next case is 2463814, Commissioner Alvarez.
The decision is not supportable. I agree that the claimant filed a late appeal to the filing determination. With regard to the ability issue, the record has not been adequately developed. The AT improperly focused only on whether or not the claimant could perform his past work. The claimant can be considered able to work if there is any work that can be performed full-time and for which he is qualified. The case should be reheard to develop the record on all types of work that the claimant is seeking and qualified to perform. Late AT appeal with regard to filing determination. Filing not eligible 9/15/19 to 9/28/19, rehear ability issue.
The appeal tribunal decision should be affirmed. Because the claimant failed to file an appeal within the applicable deadline to do so, the ruling that he filed an untimely appeal is supportable. As such, the underlying filing should remain in full force and effect. As to ability, the claimant testified that his typical work is as a security carrier. The claimant further testified that the nature of the work requires one to be on their feet quite a bit. In addition, the claimant provided a fact-finding statement that he cannot stand or drive. Moreover, in another fact-finding statement provided by the claimant, he stated that he has not been physically able to work each day of the claim week. As such, the ability ineligibility should remain open. Accordingly, we should affirm the AT decision, late claimant appeal, filing not eligible, September 15, 2019 through September 28, 2019. Claimant not able to work beginning October 27, 2019.
Affirm the AT, untimely claimant appeal, filing not eligible September 15, 2019 through September 28, 2019. Claimant not able to work beginning October 27, 2019. Memo to UIO and CS to investigate closing the ability issue.
Thank you. I have a majority vote to affirm the AT. We will send a memo to UIO and CS to investigate the ability issue and whether it can be closed.
Ms. Miller, short form dissent.
Yes, sir. Commissioner Alvarez, I have a short form dissent.
Next case, 2503768, Commissioner Alvarez.
The claimant's daughter has autism and was having behavioral issues at school and daycare. The child's pediatrician wrote a letter stating that the claimant needed to take time off from work until her daughter's behavior was under control. The claimant provided medical documentation and FMLA paperwork for the hearing to support her testimony. As the claimant was separated due to her minor daughter's medical issue, the claimant should be qualified for benefits. Reverse the AT, no misconduct, MVI, void reimbursement ruling as the employer is a federal employee.
We should modify the appeal tribunal decision. I sympathize with the claimant's challenging situation. However, the claimant was repeatedly absent without notifying her supervisor of her status, did not provide the employer the requested documentation, and failed to respond to the employer's request for contact when absent. In light of the claimant's warnings for unsatisfactory attendance, the claimant mismanaged her position of employment, and we should modify the AT decision. Misconduct, void the reimbursement ruling because the employer is a federal employer.
Modify the AT misconduct, void reimbursement rule.
Short form dissent.
Thank you, Commissioner Alvarez. I have a short form dissent.
Next case 2504973, Commissioner Emerson.
The appeal tribunal decision is supportable and should be affirmed. The claimant was denied permission to leave work to attend her children's extracurricular activity. On the day of the final incident, the claimant asked her manager if she could leave, and the manager told her that he was not giving her approval, but okay. It is reasonable to infer that the manager was conveying to the claimant that she did not have permission to leave, but that he could not stop her if she did so. This is not the same as the employer approving the claimant's request. Ultimately, the claimant disobeyed reasonable instructions, which constituted work-connected misconduct. We should therefore affirm the AT decision, misconduct, no chargeback.
The decision should be reversed. The claimant notified her employer before leaving, and although she was told it was not approved, she was also told it was okay. The employer has not presented sufficient evidence to establish the claimant knew her actions could result in discharge. Reverse the AT, no misconduct, chargeback.
Affirm the AT misconduct, no chargeback.
Short form dissent.
Thank you, Commissioner Alvarez. I have a short form dissent.
2508274, Commissioner Alvarez.
The AT decision should be modified. I agree with the AT that the claimant was an unemployed individual, therefore filed a valid claim. On the work separation, the claimant had good cause connected with the work to quit the job. She worked in an extremely unhygienic massage parlor with unsanitary work practices and a pest problem. She was subject to sexual harassment by a coworker and was not paid for the time that she had worked. She made complaints about these issues to the general manager, but they were not addressed. Other coworkers also quit due to the working conditions, and the employer ultimately fired the general manager as a result. The claimant quit due to intolerable working conditions about which she complained to management, but those complaints were never resolved. She therefore had good cause connected with the work to resign. Modify the AT, claimant had a valid claim, no voluntary leaving, chargeback.
The appeal tribunal decision should be affirmed. I agree the claimant filed a valid claim. As to the job separation, the claimant had various concerns about the workplace, but she did not give the employer an adequate opportunity to address her concerns. In addition, the employer owner's testimony indicates that had the claimant complained to him rather than resigning without notice, he would have done something about her concerns. As such, her resignation was without good cause connected with the work. We should therefore affirm the AT decision. The claimant filed a valid claim, voluntary leaving, no chargeback.
Affirm the AT, valid claim, voluntary leaving, no chargeback.
Short form dissent.
Thank you, sir. I have a short form dissent.
Next case 2508968, Commissioner Alvarez.
The decision should be modified. The claimant filed a timely appeal. Regarding the job separation, the claimant quit to move with his spouse from Austin to Houston. This was noted in the claimant's testimony and in the claimant's resignation letter. The employer did not have any office in Houston, therefore a transfer was not possible. As the claimant quit to move with his spouse and provided notice to the employer, the claimant should only be disqualified for 6 weeks. Modify the AT, timely claimant appeal, spousal leaving disqualification for 6 weeks, no chargeback.
Appeal tribunal decision should be affirmed. I do not contest the timeliness issue. As to the job separation, per the claimant's testimony, it appears that the claimant had tendered a resignation letter to move with his spouse in another city. The employer then allowed the claimant to work in the new city he had moved to. Subsequently, the claimant tendered a second resignation letter that he would be fired if he did not do so. As such, the evidence appears to indicate that the claimant's job separation occurred when he tendered a second resignation letter. Since the second letter was based on the claimant's belief that he'd be fired without context, it seems that the claimant quit in anticipation of discharge and without good work-connected cause. We should therefore affirm the AT decision, timely claimant appeal, voluntary leaving, no chargeback.
Modify the AT, timely claimant appeal, quit to move with spouse, 6-week disqualification, no charge.
Commissioner Demerson, do you have any dissent?
No, I'm good with that.
All right, we have a unanimous decision.
Thank you.
Next case, 2518681, Commissioner Demerson.
We should modify the appeal tribunal decision. I agree with the validity of the claim issue. As to the job separation, the claimant was discharged after exceeding the allowable points under the employer's attendance policy. Because the claimant's final absence was due to illness, the claimant should be qualified for benefits and the employer's account should be protected from charge under a medical separation analysis. We should modify the AT decision. The claimant filed a valid claim, no misconduct, no chargeback, separation caused by the claimant's medically verifiable illness.
I'll agree with Commissioner Demerson.
We're unanimous.
Thank you very much.
Next case, 2538956, Commissioner Alvarez.
The AT decision should be reversed. The employer shut down its child care operations for several weeks due to COVID-19 pandemic. The claimant chose to shelter in place at home pursuant to local orders. She also chose not to return to work on the employer's premises because her husband has asthma and is particularly vulnerable to becoming extremely ill from COVID-19. While the employer offered for employees to work from home, that offer was not made until after the claimant had been separated from the employment and after she filed her initial claim. The claimant had good cause connected with the work to quit due to the pandemic and the risk it caused to her family. Reverse the AT, no voluntary leaving, no chargeback due to disaster, void adequate response ruling.
We should modify the appeal tribunal decision. The employer in essential business had work available for the claimant, which the claimant refused without providing the employer any explanation. In addition, the employer offered the claimant the opportunity to work from home, but the claimant simply ignored the offer. Under these circumstances, the claimant's quitting was without good cause connected with the work. We should modify the AT decision, voluntary leaving, no chargeback, sever the adequate response ruling.
Modify the AT, voluntary leaving, no chargeback, sever adequate response.
Short form dissent.
Thank you, sir. I have a short form dissent for Commissioner Alvarez.
Next case is 2546877.
Commissioner Alvarez.
The decision should be modified. As an HVAC technician, the claimant had regular contact with the public in their homes. While the employer did everything he could to limit exposure to COVID-19, the claimant lived with 2 household members who were at higher risk for developing severe illness if they were exposed to COVID-19. The claimant left his employment because the risk of exposure to his household members was too great. The claimant's reasons for leaving employment were urgent, compelling, and necessary. Modify the AT, not disqualified, urgent, compelling, and necessary, valid claim, void chargeback, employer not a party of interest.
The appeal tribunal decision should be modified. I contest the issue of validity of the claim, voiding the chargeback and modifying the employer's status as not a party of interest. As to the job separation, the claimant quit because he was afraid he would contract COVID-19 at his job. However, the employer took measures to provide a safe and healthy working environment, such as furnishing PPE, including masks and gloves. In addition, the claimant was not reprimanded for canceling appointments, and he was told by the employer that he could cancel appointments if he did not feel comfortable taking them. As such, the ruling that the claimant quit without good cause is supportable. We should therefore modify the AT decision, voluntary leaving, void the chargeback ruling. The claimant filed a valid claim and change the employer's status to not a party of interest.
Modify the AT, valid claim, voluntary leaving, void chargeback, employer not party of interest.
Short form dissent.
Thank you, Commissioner Alvarez. I have your short form dissent.
Yes, ma'am.
Next case is 2548937, Commissioner Demerson.
We should modify the appeal tribunal decision. I agree with the validity of the claim issue. As to the job separation, the employer's testimony was confusing and could have been better developed. The evidence indicates that the claimant's hours were reduced either due to personal illness or by the COVID-19 natural disaster. Under either scenario, the claimant should be qualified for benefits and the employer's account should be protected from charge. Accordingly, we should modify the AT decision. The claimant filed a valid claim, no misconduct, no chargeback, natural disaster, or MVI.
I would agree with Commissioner Demerson.
Which rationale, sir? It was natural disaster or NVI.
Either one.
We have to choose one for the decision.
Natural disaster is where we're going.
Natural disaster is fine.
Okay. And Mr. Chairman,
Modify the AT, valid claim, no misconduct, no chargeback disaster, memo to UIO and CS to investigate potential unreported earnings.
thank you. We have a unanimous decision and a memo to UIO and CS.
Thank you.
Next case, 2551669, Commissioner Alvarez.
The decision should be reversed. The claimant's hours were reduced, and he was working less than full time. The claimant used earned vacation time so that he would continue to receive a paycheck of at least 40 hours per week. Vacation time previously earned does not constitute wages payable for a benefit period. Therefore, the claimant was partially unemployed under Section 201.091 of the Act. Reverse the AT, valid claim, unemployed.
The AT decision is not supportable based on the current evidence. Prior to filing his initial claim, the claimant experienced a substantial reduction in weekly work hours. The employer did not testify at the hearing, but his claim response indicated that the new normal work week was 35 hours. The claimant gave the only testimony, and he indicated that he was working as few as 26 hours during the week he filed his unemployment claim. To be sure, he applied paid vacation hours to make out a full paycheck, but at some point the vacation hours were insufficient. Even at 35 hours of paid work each week, the claimant would have qualified for partial unemployment benefits based upon his weekly benefit amount and being under the customary full-time hours. To be certain whether the claimant is partially unemployed or not, it would be appropriate to ask the employer to submit an earnings verification form showing exactly what hours the claimant worked, how many vacation hours were used, and his total earnings for each relevant claim week. And following that, to hold a rehearing to bring that evidence into record.
Reverse the AT, valid claim.
Any dissent, Commissioner Demerson?
Short form dissent.
Thank you, sir.
Next case, 2554859, Commissioner Demerson.
We should remand this case back to the appeal tribunal. At the beginning of the hearing, the employer notified the hearing officer that it had several witnesses on its behalf available in the next room. The hearing officer told the employer that these witnesses would be called once their testimony became relevant. However, the hearing officer ended the hearing without calling these witnesses to testify or even addressing their presence. I understand that the hearing officer asked the owner at the end, when wrapping up the hearing, if there were any last statements she wanted to add. This, however, is not the same as the hearing officer specifically providing the employer an opportunity to present its witnesses. Most often, parties are novices and inexperienced in appeal hearings and legal proceedings. They depend on the hearing officer for assistance and guidance. Therefore, because the employer's witnesses were not invited to participate, we should remand this case to the appeal tribunal for testimony witnesses.
The decision should be affirmed. Following the death of her daughter, the claimant and her family decided to relocate. The claimant gave the employer notice on March 2nd that the last day would be June 1st. The claimant provided 3 months' notice, and the employer decided to end the claimant's employment early on March 24th due to the economic reasons. Therefore, under certain commission precedent, the employer initiated the separation. As the employer has not shown the claimant was discharged for misconduct, The claimant should be qualified for benefits. Affirm the AT, no misconduct, chargeback, no overpayment.
Modify the AT, no misconduct, no chargeback, disaster, no overpayment.
All right, we have not yet achieved a majority vote.
Ms. Miller, I would agree with Chairman Daniels.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Short form.
And Commissioner Demerson, I have a short form dissent for you.
Final case is 255660, Commissioner Demerson.
We should affirm the appeal tribunal decision. The employer had a policy against taking photos on the employer's premises. By taking a photo of himself in the bathroom, the claimant violated the employer's policy. The claimant argues that the bathroom was not an area where photos were prohibited. Yet it is generally understood that public bathrooms are in areas where individuals have an expectation of privacy and where photography is not allowed. Thus, because the claimant mismanaged his position of employment, he was discharged for misconduct connected with the work. We should affirm the AT decision. Misconduct, no chargeback.
The decision should be reversed. The claimant took a picture of himself fully clothed while in the bathroom because he lost weight. The claimant denied posting the pictures on Twitter as alleged by the employer. Additionally, the employer's policy about taking pictures only applied to pictures of funeral and burial services. The claimant taking the picture of himself does not violate the policy. Therefore, the employer has not shown misconduct. Reverse the AT, no misconduct, chargeback.
Reverse the AT, no misconduct, chargeback.
All right, short form dissent.
Thank you, Commissioner Demerson. I have your short form dissent. And that was the last pulled case on docket 31. You should have received the short form dissent list earlier this morning.
I move we accept staff recommendations on the remaining UI cases on docket 31.
I second the motion except for those cases on which I'm dissenting as reflected on the UI short form list, the short form dissent list for docket 31.
I concur with the chairman's motion except for the cases on which I'm dissenting as reflected in the UI short form dissent list for docket 31.
Motion passes with the exceptions noted.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. This brings us to the end of agenda items 3 through 7. We're going to take a quick break to reset for the rest of the meeting.
Yes, sir. Okay. Back on Zoom because I lost everybody. Could not see anything. So.
You're also not muted right now.
Let me take care of this.
I think I paid attention.
From out. Okay, I'm back on. Let me do my camera.
right, there's everybody back. All right, this meeting's back in order. Brings us to item 8 on the agenda. Item 8 is being postponed to a future meeting. Item 9 is being postponed to a future meeting. This brings us to agenda item 10, discussion consideration, possible action regarding communication access for vocational rehabilitation customers.
Good morning, Commissioners. For the record, Jason Baden, Vocational Rehabilitation Division. The Vocational Rehabilitation Division has historically used the Texas Health and Human Services Commission's Communication Services for State Agencies, or CSSA, guidelines and rates for communication access providers. Those guidelines allow no-show fees to be charged when interpreters are scheduled, but the customer fails to attend the appointment. Those guidelines also allow late cancellation fees to be charged when interpreter services are canceled less than 48 business hours prior to that scheduled service. However, the Rehabilitation Services Administration advised VR agencies that no-show fees are an improper payment and as such not an allowable use of VR funds. As a result, on December 17th of 2019, you all took action directing staff to notify communication access providers about a revised proposed rate structure to comply with federal guidance and to bring back the feedback received along with proposed rates this year for formal adoption. However, subsequent to that action, the Rehabilitation Services Administration issued revised guidance providing states with the flexibility to make cancellation fee payments and instructing that the payments are an allowable use of VR funds. As a result, we've continued to use the CSSA rates that have been in place historically. We also met with HHSC about the CSSA rates, which have not been updated in recent years. We learned that they're reviewing the rates, and we anticipate they might be updated in the near future. Commissioners, this morning, staff seeks direction on the continuation of the VR rates for communication access services in alignment with the HHSC CSSA guidelines and rates, which include appropriate cancellation fees. Also, in anticipation of future rate adjustments by HHSC, staff seeks direction on making corresponding adjustments to the VR rates to maintain that alignment moving forward. Commissioners, this concludes my remarks, and I'm happy to answer questions if you have any.
Comments or questions?
No questions here, Chairman.
None.
All right, do we have any motions?
I move that we approve the use of VR rates, which are based on CSSA for interpreting and CART services that were in place prior to December 17, 2019, with the understanding that the CSSA rates might be updated in the future as discussed by staff.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. We're unanimous. Let's move to agenda item 11, discussion, consideration, and possible action regarding statewide initiatives funded with Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act, temporary assistance for needy families, adult education and literacy, child care, or other state level funds. Adult education and literacy, AEL, math assistance call center RFA 32020-00214.
Good morning, Chair, Commissioners, and Mr. Cerna. For the record, Jen Troke, Workforce Division. Texas Workforce Commission sought grant applications from eligible applicants to collaborate with AEL providers to operate a math assistance call center for up to $500,000. The call center will assist eligible AEL students in preparing for the mathematics portion of the Texas Certificate of High School Equivalency. Assistance will also be available to AEL students who lack sufficient skills in mathematics to participate effectively in society. An RFA was published in May. Evaluators scored the applications, resulting in one grant award that is anticipated to start in August of 20. Recent AEL legislation requires all grant applications and awards for the AEL program to be reviewed and approved by TWC's commissioners prior to notification of award to the grant recipient. Therefore, staff recommend commission approval for one grant award for the AEL Math Assistance Call Center. Any questions?
Comments or question?
I do have a comment on this agenda item, Chairman. Commissioners, I would like to defer this agenda item until the next commission meeting and would like staff to brief each of the commissioners on the scoring details for this application. At this time, I do not feel that I have sufficient information upon which to base a decision.
Additional comments or questions?
I know we're looking at taking action on this. Alvarez, but I also want to make sure that we're looking at Texas employers for these tremendous opportunities. And so that anyway, I think looking at this might be an opportunity for us.
Okay,
Excellent. We'll set up a briefing with both commissioners. Thank you.
thank you. This will move us to item 12, discussion, consideration, and possible action regarding guidance on resource utilization and implementation of services and strategies to target disaster relief efforts and public health emergencies, including those funded with the Department of Labor's Disaster Dislocated Worker Grant.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, Ed Serna, Executive Director, Texas Workforce Commission. We really have no staff reports from any of the divisions that are working through the COVID emergency. I would like to report, however, that we did not have to draw down any Title 12 loans yesterday, as Texas employers deposited approximately $175 million into the fund, and that covered all the state benefits that were paid. With that, I have nothing else to report.
All right, thank you. Any questions for Ed?
No, sir.
Item 13 is being postponed to a future meeting. Item 14, discussion, consideration, and possible action regarding the initial high school equivalency voucher distribution related to AB 3 enacted by the 86th Texas Legislature, regular session.
Good morning, Chair Daniel, Commissioner Alvarez, Commissioner Demerson, and Mr. Serna. For the record, my name is Mahalia Baldini with Adult Education and Literacy. House Bill 3, Section 1.046, enacted by the 86th Texas Legislature in their regular session of 2019, added a new section to the Texas Education Code, Section 48.302, subsidy for high school equivalency examination for certain individuals. This legislation required that the Texas Education Agency enter into an MOU with TWC when transferring funds to subsidize the cost of a high school equivalency exam for individuals who are 21 years of age or older. It also required TWC to develop rules addressing program implementation and eligibility requirements for high school equivalency subsidy program. First, issue 1 of this discussion paper describes the methodology for the initial voucher distribution to AEL grant recipients. Proposed rules under new subchapter E require the Commission to approve an initial high school equivalency voucher distribution by September 1 of each year. The proposed rules also allow for the Commission to approve an adjustment to the distributions mid-year or at any other time based on the voucher usage and demand. TWC staff will monitor the voucher usage of this initial distribution to recommend any further distribution changes. The methodology used for the proposed initial voucher distribution, as shown in Table 1 of your notebook materials, considers individual high school equivalency test taking data from 2019 through February of 2020. Issue 2 describes the plan for AEL grant recipients to distribute vouchers to eligible individuals. Proposed rules under new subchapter E state that TWC will prioritize subsidies for current or former AEL program participants, but also states that subsidies may go to individuals who are eligible to receive over subsidy, but are not current or former AEL participants. Because AEL grant recipients will manage the voucher distribution to eligible subsidy recipients, staff is recommending that TWC provide AEL grant recipients flexibility to develop local policies related to the distribution of subsidies to individuals who are not current or former AEL participants. So at this time, staff seeks direction on the items described in 1 and 2. Distribute high school equivalency subsidy vouchers as shown in Table 1 to implement the high school equivalency subsidy program required under House Bill 3 and allow AEL grant recipients to develop local policies related to the distribution of subsidies to individuals who are not current or former AEL participants. So thank you for your time this morning, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Comments or questions?
No comments at this time, Chairman.
None here.
Do we have any motion?
Chairman, I move that we approve the distribution of HSC vouchers as outlined in Table 1 and approve allowing AEL grant recipients to develop local policies related to distribution of vouchers to individuals who are not current or former AEL participants as discussed.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. We're unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you.
Move to agenda item 15, discussion, consideration, and possible action regarding approval of local workforce development board nominees.
Good morning, Chairman Daniel, Commissioner Alvarez, Commissioner Demerson, and Mr. Serna. For the record, Shanta Williams with the Workforce Development Division. And before you for consideration, we have workforce board nominees for Workforce Solutions Capital Area, North Texas, Northeast Texas, Panhandle, South Plains, and Southeast Texas. This concludes my request, and I'm here to answer any questions you may have.
Comments or questions?
No comments, sir.
I'm here.
Do we have a motion?
Chairman, I move that we approve the board nominees for Capital Area, North Texas, Northeast Texas, Panhandle, South Plains, and Southeast Texas.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. We're unanimous. Thank you. Do we have a legislative report today?
Yes, sir.
Good morning. Good morning, Chairman Daniel, Commissioner Alvarez, Commissioner Demerson. For the record, Michael Brick, Governmental Relations. I do have an update this morning. Congressional leaders are continuing negotiations on additional COVID-19 relief legislation, including a potential extension to the federal pandemic unemployment compensation program that expired at the end of July. At this time, an agreement has not yet been reached. We will continue to monitor these negotiations and congressional action, and we'll keep your offices updated as details emerge related to unemployment insurance or other TWC programs. Regarding the Texas legislature, House Committee on International Relations and Economic Development Chairman Representative Rafael Anchia has requested TWC to present at a virtual town hall he is hosting on Wednesday, August 12th at 9 a.m. on the topic of childcare as economic development. Chairman Anchia has requested that TWC speak on several points, including the importance of childcare in relation to economic development, how the COVID-19 pandemic has affected childcare operations and exposed vulnerabilities, and what the state can do to ensure high-quality childcare is available for parents throughout the state. Reagan Miller will be participating in the town hall on behalf of TWC. The virtual town hall will be open to all members of the Texas legislature as well. While these town halls are not formal committee meetings, with the COVID-19 pandemic preventing House committees from holding formal in-person meetings, House committee chairs are making use of these virtual town halls to hear reports from the public and experts on topics of importance to their committees in the Texas legislature. This concludes my remarks, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Any comments or questions?
No, Chairman.
None. Thank you, Michael.
All right. Do we have an executive director's report today?
No, sir, I have nothing to report.
All right. Is there any other order of business come before the commission?
Not from here, Chairman.
None here.
And do we have a motion to adjourn?
Chairman and Commissioner, I make a motion that we adjourn the meeting.
Second.
Yes. It's been moved and seconded to adjourn. The commission is adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Have a good week.
You too. Thanks so much.
Okay.
It's good to see you guys, even if it's on the screen.
Yep, got it. Thumbs up.
I'm the same height as you all.
Yeah, I got an alpha. Appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
All right.
All right. Have a great day.
All right.
You too, Chairman, Commissioner.